Welcome everyone to Meticulous Moments, the Meticulous Moments podcast, where we facilitate community upliftment through leadership development. And this podcast was born in 2020. God has been so good. There have been amazing people on this show, amazing followers, people that really have gone the extra mile to be a part of the Meticulous Moments positive community. That's what we spread. We spread positive energy, we uplift each other, we help each other, we collaborate, and we know that we are building the future. And that is something wonderful to be a part of. And I'm so blessed today to have one of my wonderful friends, and of course, a fellow martial artist. And you've seen what he's been doing in the martial arts world, and we're going to talk about that as well as many other things today. But Grandmaster Gary Wasniewski is here with us. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but he is here with us, and we are going to be interviewing him today and to hear more about his story, guys. So hold on to your seats because it's going to be a wonderful session. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hi, Juanita. Great to see you. I'm glad to be here and welcome to everybody here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the honor. I know you're extremely busy. Plus, we are in different time zones, but we made it happen. We are here at the Meticulous Moments show, and in this room with the audience would like to learn more about you. I mean, we've seen the video here. Tell
Mhm.
us a little bit about what you've been doing and how long you have been in the martial arts.
Well, it's a long story. I started really in 1975, really. I was inspired greatly by, watching movies at the time. And I was taken to an Elvis Presley movie in, I think it was 1966. And he was doing karate and he was fighting some people in the movie. And he said, "That's karate." And I said to my mum, I want to do karate. And she said, "Well, I think it was about 12 or 13 at the time. And so we joined a karate school in Bournemouth in England. It's a Waterloo club. And I started there and I just loved it. I just fell in love with it and continued the rest of my life doing that, really. I studied, I went to college, and I should have finished a degree in law, but I didn't. I was too much possessed by doing karate and running a club. And we started Tiger in 1975, and it's 50 years anniversary this year. So thanks for that. It's
Long time.
what started as a hobby became an all-encompassing passion and profession and helping people. I always thought that karate was important to keep people safe
Yeah.
and or whatever martial art you do, really. So it's a force for good, really. So that's how I started, really.
Absolutely phenomenal. And in going to that dojo and stepping on those mats, you found your life purpose. Because I
Yeah.
think sometimes we think our life purpose is one thing, and then uh, God intervenes. Some people will call it destiny intervenes, and we find our purpose, and we live it. And that's what you've been doing. You've been living your purpose.
Yeah, I think that's very true, actually. I'm a great believer in God, and I know you are, and many other people watching. And I think in times of, things not going right in lives and pandemics and all the things that can sometimes hit us, it's very important to have a belief system, to believe in something bigger than you or I. And I think the importance of that is everything. When you have that belief, you can fight anything. And in my life, I've witnessed that, and it's been a great strength, great wall to lean on to support me, really.
Amen. Amen. I 100% agree with you because I've been through some things in my life, and then
I'm
I would
sure.
tell the people at church, I wonder what people out there that get into a situation like this do when they don't have God. What do
Yeah,
they do?
no, I don't understand it really. I think there's a negative view. I think personally, I think people have become very detached from spirituality.
Yeah.
I think they tend to think about things in a monetary way or a possession way, but there's things that that are far more comforting and far
Yeah.
more important to the human being is how you feel inside. And I think belief in something beyond you or the internet or whatever, or money for that matter, even is important, really.
Yeah, it's true. It's true because we live in a system and money is a tool, but it doesn't help you to be balanced in your spiritual, emotional, and mental life. It doesn't. It's a tool to be used. We live in a
Yeah,
system, there's a process. Of course, we have to be a part of the economy and everything, but the greater purpose comes when we go on that soul searching, when we start to be present in
I
that
agree.
and say, what am I focusing on now? Because lots of people focus on the past all the time. They live in the past. Other people live for the future. But if you focus here,
Yeah, it's true. I mean, here and now is everything, but
that's it.
also you learn from the past, and and that'll help you fight in the future and really achieve things. I think one of the things that I found in life that the karate I teach is very much not just physical, but we
Yeah,
talk to we talk to the people, some of which have trained with me 40 years, some of them and still training now, and
yeah,
women, and 30 odd years. And I think what they found is that it's not just a physical activity, it's a
no.
whole body experience. It's psychological and it's physical as well.
That's right. It pushes you to your limits.
Mm,
I'd have to say, when I started martial arts, I mean, I knew who I was and I knew what I was doing because I was in the full time ministry. But I have to say, if I have to be honest, I found myself, me, and what I'm capable of on that mat and in that dojo because I was mentored. I
yeah.
wasn't just training and being taught, I was being mentored along the way as well.
Well, you had a good instructor, and unfortunately, in my early days in karate, when I was doing Wadaru, I had a very tough grandmaster master then, Meiji Suzuki, who's a very very tough man, and the sessions were very hard and brutal, and you would come away with getting cuts and broken bones and that, but that was the way karate was in those days. But to me, I tried to with Tiger have that physical power, but also have an inner power, but also a caring nature with what I taught, because I saw in those early days of the 70s nasty injuries and brutality, really. Uh, and I found that I wanted to create Tiger as something that keeps you safe, but also something that affects you spiritually and mentally to make you a better person, And so we would talk after the session and during the session about the importance of using a limited amount of power in order not to kill or damage somebody, which
That's
to me it was important because there's a balance between all out aggression and
yes.
and I did full contact karate, I did that, and I know that the kick can knock out, but also the kick of the punch could kill as well. So
That's
there's
right.
a balance, a fine line between extreme and decent behavior, really.
That's true. That's true. There's so many lights going off in my mind as you're speaking because Grandmaster Eric Lee always says if you learn how to fight, you need to learn how to heal. That's something that he brought to my attention. And also Coach King, Coach Marvin King, he always says, and that's true because I remember those days. We used to overtrain. We used
Yeah.
to overtrain and we used to train even with an injury, and it was so bad for us. But the longer you go into martial arts, the more you learn, the wiser you get.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But to be honest with you, in those days, there was nobody ever talking that way or thinking that way.
That's right.
Training was a tough physical thing, and in a way, I think it was great in that way. But
Man of
now there's more understanding of if you overtrain on an injury, you eventually damage yourself completely.
That's right. That's right. I still have an injury, that I work with every day, and it was my own fault. But
Mm,
I didn't know better at that time. But
Sure.
now, we can
Mm.
teach those that are following in our footsteps, and that's a good
Yes,
thing. So it's worth it in the end. The
absolutely.
very important point you made, sir, was that when you have a training partner, or you have a kyoshi or a sensei
Mm.
or a sifu, you need to have someone that knows the type of amount of pressure that can be applied, that can teach the
Yeah,
students, because accidents happen very quickly. So I
can
put
do,
disclaimers on
can do.
everything. Don't
But
try stuff at home, guys.
absolutely. But the other thing is, I mean, a martial art should be able to defend you
That's
on the
right.
street if you have to. So there's a fine line. But I think the great thing is the ability, and I've always done it in my sessions, to be able to touch with a kick, you know,
Yes.
with control, but know that if you put it going through somebody, you could take somebody's head off
That's
cleanly,
right.
not that you'd want to, but
No,
there is that balance between, self-preservation and also aggression out of control. And this is the real great thing I think about a good martial arts system. You have the power, but you know when not to use it
that's
and
right.
when you have to defend yourself in life situations. I
That's
mean,
right.
I was on a club door and I had a man attack me with a knife, and it scarred me there. But my reaction from what I did, my defensive karate reactions covered it, my face blocked it, and then I dealt with him in quite a severe way. And the
Good.
police were called and said, how did you get the cut? I said, well, I blocked the knife. And
Right.
he said, he's in a bit of a mess, that guy now. I said, well, you know, he wanted to kill me. So I wasn't going to stand there and let somebody do that.
Yeah, well, he got what he deserved. I mean, if someone attacks you, you have to definitely stand up for yourself. I'll tell the audience, at the dojo we learn how long to choke someone, just to let them pass out, not to cause brain damage or to let the person expire. But if
There's
you
a
are
limit to what you
serious,
do. We know there's a limit to it. I didn't do anything vicious, but I had to knock him down and knock
good.
him out, really.
You have to protect yourself. Absolutely, it's about self-defense and
Mm.
being able to flip that switch when you need to. I know that we try to talk the fight down first, but I
Yeah,
mean, if someone just swings a knife
100%.
at you, what are you supposed to do? You got
Exactly.
to defend yourself.
We also live in a world of very much political correctness. So, sometimes the
Therefore,
defender can be made to be the enemy and the perpetrator, but it's not that way. And I think I studied law and I knew that, there is a right, but the laws changed somewhat around the
yeah,
world now. It's become as if to say, well, you shouldn't have done that. And I like to say, and I do say in defense of that, did you want me to die? I mean,
exactly.
so, you've got your legal rule about what I should have done. But
That's
when you're facing a knife or somebody trying to kill you, I have to stop that man or whoever in order to survive. So am I
exactly.
wrong to do that? I think
No,
the whole of martial arts gives people the ability to see off death rather than experience it.
exactly. I agree, and it's just a life journey. It's something that becomes a part of you. We were taught that the way you train, that's the way you're gonna fight.
Absolutely.
You go in there. Our saying used to be "go hard or go home," because you're either there to train, or you can come back tomorrow. But then also
Absolutely.
heal up and rest up when you
Mm.
have that time. Now, I'm sure you have many stories about the
Too
martial
many,
arts.
really.
We want
Too
to
many.
hear them.
Well, I worked on a discotheque club door, and you were picked not for how big you were. Now you're picked if you're big and stocky, but the owners knew me as being karate man. They said, Gary, you can defend yourself and fight. So would you do it? And when you're desperate, when you're young and you need to earn money, that's what you do. And then I studied law and what have you. But to me, the passion was to have the balance between two. You could do your studies and do well, but what about the personal safety? And I fell in love with karate. I just loved it ever since the movie I saw, and I've never really ever lost that feeling and joy, and then to pass it on to other people, to see that they were safe. And students coming to me and say, "Oh, Grandmaster, I came back. This guy tried to attack me with a knife, and I dealt with him, and the police were called, and they commended him for defending that. And I felt proud because I gave him something or her something
Yeah.
that would save a life, really."
That is true. That is absolutely true. The joy that comes from it.
Mm.
I cannot describe it. I just know it's like an energy to me. I've been trying to teach people for
That's it.
years.
That's what it is, isn't it? It's an energy that you get and a feeling that you've helped people really
Yeah.
defend themselves as well.
Energy that you carry with yourself, that you
Yeah.
go to the dojo with. There is the collective, your dojo family, because the dojo becomes your
Yeah, correct.
home.
It's a brotherhood or a girlhood or whatever you want to call it. And I think the thing about martial arts that people don't realize is it's not all about fighting. There's a lot of
That's
philosophy
right.
there. There's a lot of thinking about why you do that. And there's a point that you don't go beyond. And I think there's moral issues as well you're taught with karate. You could hurt somebody, but you don't go out of your way to damage them. Enough is enough to control them. And that's it. But we live in difficult times now, and I think it's very important to have martial arts in your back pocket there
Yes.
because you don't know when trouble can strike, really.
That's true. I think the best thing I ever did was take my kids to the dojo and myself. It changed the whole trajectory of our lives. I'm so
Absolutely.
grateful. I'm so
Yeah.
grateful to the martial
I
arts.
teach at schools in London anyway, and I find that the parents just love it because we make it fun. It's not brutal. We make it fun, but also we teach them little things like if somebody grabs them to kind of flick the hand or give them a pinch here or there and to break the grip. So it's not brutal stuff, but it's something that does help them and it does work and they love it and it's fun. So we make it fun for the young ones. And for the seniors, we know then you go into a different area where you teach them defense for your life, really.
That's right, because they are going to use it. I mean, we live in a very dangerous world right now.
Don't we?
I mean, in South Africa, the gender based violence alone is 5.1 times higher than in the rest of the world.
Yeah, I
So
know.
it's,
I did a big seminar for the South African Karate Federation. I think I mentioned to you on another conversation,
yeah,
and it was very popular in South Africa, but also it was pretty rough in South Africa, wasn't it, for
yes.
certain periods of time?
It was. It was very dangerous there.
Mm.
I live in the Eastern Cape. I know you went to the Western Cape, to Cape Town. Beautiful place there.
Durban, yeah, it's nice.
Or Durban,
Yeah,
beautiful place, warm waters. Cape Town has the cold water, and
yeah,
in the Eastern Cape, because it's more like on the landscape side of it, the mountain side of it.
sure,
The towns are small, but they are overpopulated.
really,
So when I go to town with my truck and the kids, I don't walk in the street like someone that's defeated or that's someone that's tired or a little scared. I walk like I own that street.
sure,
And, I look everybody in the eye and I kind of have this, threatening attitude because you have to. Because when they look at you once, I once had a guy walking straight at me and I had my
really,
handbag over my shoulder and I knew he was coming for my handbag and I just gave him this look and I just did this.
yeah. It's
And
what
he
you give off, isn't it? You
walked away.
Well done, but it's what you give off, isn't it? And I think that's the other power of the martial arts,
That's
is
right.
that you have that inner power. And I know people say, well, what's inner power? Inner power is the difference between being a victim and
That's right.
and defending yourself. That's what
Yeah.
I say.
Absolutely, absolutely. To describe that energy and that power, guys, I think I told you, sir, when I was at the MAM Hall of Fame, I had Grandmaster Jesse Bowen there with me because I launched my book
Mm.
as well through him. And I think it was Grandmaster Ted Cambordella. He was there.
Yeah,
And
he's a good man. He did a big book about
he
me.
did. It's a
Yeah,
shout out to him. He's,
yeah, he's
he's
a lovely man.
awesome. He's
Lovely
a
man.
lovely, lovely
Yeah,
person. He's a good soul, and we're praying for him with his battle, with his health. And he
yeah, I know.
walked up to us and he said,
Yeah,
"Can I take a photo of you and Grandmaster Bowen?" And we said yes. And we didn't even speak about how we're going to take the photo. We just both went into the same stance, back to
yeah,
back. But the moment we did this, it was like energy that went. And I
sure.
remember looking at Grandmaster Bowen and I said, "Did you feel that?" And he was like, "Yes, ma'am." And that's what how I can explain to
Yeah,
people that energy that you feel.
yeah. Funny, I was talking to Grandmaster Jesse Bowen on the telephone about collaboration, about bringing things over from Europe and other things. So we was a very good conversation. So hopefully we'll be able to interconnect and bring everybody together in a most positive way. Really.
Absolutely. It's all about that collaboration.
Yeah,
Man is global. I know a lot of the martial arts. I know Tiger is also spreading, and I'm so
absolutely.
blessed to be a part of it. So there's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is. We have the Tiger USA International run by Chris Wetherington and Kyle Green, and
Yes.
they're doing a fantastic job. They really are. Um, People are joining. People want to know about the Hall of Fame in London. People want to know about me coming over to America. They're doing a fantastic job. So, yeah, it's amazing how Tiger is now in the 50th year become global, really. It's wonderful.
It's wonderful, and 50 years is something to celebrate.
Yes.
Something to celebrate. I mean, guys, that is half a century. I'm
Yeah.
so blessed to be a part of your
Giving
organization.
away my age.
Doesn't matter. Age doesn't matter in the martial arts,
Absolutely
right?
not.
It keeps
Mm,
us young.
absolutely.
I've got my brother Don McGuire. He's a fellow MAM Hall of Fame inductee with you, sir. And he's asking, how has martial arts defined your walk?
Well, I think it does define you, in many ways. Everybody's an individual and everybody has their own personal view about this, that, and the other. But there's some basic things that we're all the same on. The martial arts give you that sense of security, but give you a weapon to defend yourself when you need it. I think also the philosophy in your mind should be that positivity, but also being able to switch on to the not so positive and deal with the negativity, really. And I think martial arts for everybody. I mean, I'm very much into, kicking and flexibility and things like that. But I know having four weapons working for you, the legs and the hands are very important. So I think in Tiger, what I've tried to do is make the whole body. And in actual fact, in your opening credits, you saw me putting my head through that
That's right.
concrete breeze block or whatever it was, and it was a crazy thing to do, but I repeatedly did it over a period of time to demonstrate, and people would then say, oh, but in latter life you're going to be, you brain dead, you're going to be but it was an urge in me. We started breaking boards with that, and it became like almost a trademark for me and the Tiger organization to do these things. And people always said to me, I used to laugh actually,
Yeah.
foolishly maybe. They said, "Don't worry. When you get to a certain age, you won't be talking. You won't be able to do this and that."
No
So
way.
I laugh now because I can still do it.
You
So
can still do it. I agree. I agree. My grandmother
not that
used to
I'd want
say,
to, but I could still do it. Yeah.
"Yeah, you've trained for it." My grandmother used to say, in our family, the because we had also like my grandfathers, and they were also fighters, and they used to headbutt people really hard. And
Well,
my son
one of
was
my
born.
favorite techniques.
Yes. And my son was born, and I found her often when she came to visit me. She should sit with my son on her lap, and she'd butt her head on his forehead, like
Oh
this,
dear.
and sing to him. And one day I went up to her and I said, "Grandma, what are you doing?" She said, "Well, he needs to carry on the tradition because he's going to do good headbutts and making his skull hard." And I just
Yeah.
chuckled. And then I saw when he was 2 years old, he would run into a wall, like playing or running after the
Mm.
dog. He'd run into the wall. he'd not have a bruise, he'd not cry, he'd
Wow.
just get up and run down, and I
Right.
was like, that's your grandmother that helped
No.
you with that.
That's one thing I didn't do, I must admit. But no, it's families, isn't it? You have traits. In my lifetime, with the Polish name being in England, and you used to be the butt of the jokes. So I used to be having fights at school all the time. Oh, you can't speak English. I'm born here in England, but it didn't matter.
Right?
But you get silly talk. So you had to be able to give a
Navigate.
slap here and there to defend yourself. And
That's right.
it's very traumatic at times because
Yeah.
I had people calling me immigrant and all these horrible names. And instead of breaking me, it tended to enhance me, to be tough inside as
That's
well as
right.
outside, really.
That's right. We're very similar. We're very similar. We have a lot in common, sir. Because if
I believe
somebody
that. I believe
if
that.
somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm gonna prove them wrong. I,
This is a
yeah,
rare trait, though, isn't it? You see, because most people um, put down by that, but some
yeah.
people rise up to the challenge, don't they? And as
That's
you've
true.
done, and I've done, really.
That's true. I want to share a story with you to illustrate how God put that. I think that is a fire that God puts in our spirit
I think
to persevere and to survive and to really to achieve, because I was a young pastor in the ministry, and I wasn't a typical pastor. I didn't fit the mold because I was a female. First of all, those days you didn't find a lot of female pastors. And of course, I was
so.
adventurous. I did a lot of things with the youth and the young adults, and I tried to make the gospel not so serious, but still bring across that point, to
Mm.
let them grow spiritually. And I sat in a ordained pastor's office, and he looked at me and he said, "You will never make it in the ministry." And I just looked at him and I said, "You know what? Watch me." And about 10 years later, he had to ordain me. That same pastor who
Goes
told
to
me
show,
how to.
doesn't it?
Yes,
Just goes to show, people have this habit of writing people off and saying, oh, you can't do this or you won't be able to do this. But that's a dangerous thing to do because really, you can't measure somebody's inner power or
never.
determination. And I think one of the things people tend to judge a book by its cover
Yeah,
sometimes, which is very, very dangerous to do because you can be a nice guy and you can be a nice lady, but, be careful because there's always another side. And I think the
that's right.
martial arts gives you that ability to switch on and then switch off when you
That's
need to.
right.
And that is
That's
a great power. And I think all martial artists should be very proud of that fact to have that. And you can
right.
enhance that by thinking about what you're doing, but more importantly, being able to do it when
Yeah,
push comes to shove, when you're attacked. Really.
that's right. That's right. Never underestimate your opponent, guys, and be careful. These bombastic fighters out there that walk on the street. Oh my goodness, be scared of the silent ones. The
Absolutely.
quiet ones.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I think martial arts is fantastic for any young children growing up, just learning and teaching them things to keep themselves safe, not to be aggressive. There's this myth that it's all about, and you see cage fighting and all that. And to me personally, I think that's when it's gone a step too far. I mean,
Yeah,
I know that the public like that, but I know also as well that there's a group of people who think it's gone too far, really, with the
that's
violence and that side. But that's the way the media and modern life is now. But
that's
I
true.
look for something a bit more internal, something less sort of ugly, really.
That's right. Absolutely. We've got Don here with us. He's also a MAM inductee with you, sir, and he is a good brother of mine. And he's asking, what project do you have coming up? And he says you have a tremendous ability in the martial arts. He's complimenting you.
Well, that's great, isn't it? That's wonderful to hear. I mean, I'm doing this. I've done films in LA with Leo Fong, directed me. I was there doing a seminar in Santa Monica, and I met him, and he was watching me, with sunglasses on, and And he said, "Have you ever thought about movies?" This is in 2006, I think it was. And he said, "Let me buy you dinner." So we had that, and he told me, "I'm writing a script. When you kick, I see thunder and lightning." And so he said, "I'm going to write something." And then he wrote the script that became the film Thunder Kick. And I was very honored to play the lead role there. And I was starring the star of the movie, and I was with Mel Novak, who was in various many films. Mel Novak, he's passed away now, and so has Leo. But he saw in me something. He said, "Nobody kicks like you, Gary." He said, "I've been living in America and I trained with Bruce Lee." He trained personally with Bruce Lee. And it was, yeah, this is, his words, not mine. And he said, "I've never seen anybody, even Bruce would have loved to kick like you." And I took that as a big compliment because they were sparring partners, Leo Fong and Bruce Lee. If you look it up on the internet, you'll see. And so he said, I think I want you. One, you kick like nobody else, but I want to do the movie. And he scripted it, wrote it. And in 2007, it's on DVD still now. We did the film called Thunder Kick. And
Fantastic.
so it was quite, it's amazing how you meet people. I
That's
was
right.
invited to do a seminar in Santa Monica by a karate school, and it just went. And then I've been going non-stop to and from the USA, still to this day teaching, and obviously in Europe as well. But that's a story to share with you. He's a lovely man, Leo Fong, very, very particular, and could
Yeah.
write a script in his head almost, and
See.
then put it out. And as people want to see the DVD now, I've got to send it to America because they're putting it into some film cinemas there
Oh,
because
wow.
there's an interest in that. I was just told today by a few colleagues of mine. So,
That's fantastic. Congratulations. Please make available to the audience how they can get their copies so that they.
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to actually, I'm working with the Tiger guys in the USA about that, and it's going to the cinemas. Some of the old films I've done are going there. And then I played the part of a Roman Catholic priest in Fears, which is a supernatural thriller. So then I went from not kicking people to being kicked around by a horrible, evil spirit, but in the end, winning out.
Good, good, good. That must have been a very interesting experience.
Yeah, it was indeed. And I found that now my acting has gone not just to martial art movies, but to other things,
Yeah.
other genres. And it's intriguing because I think when you act, people think, oh, it's easy. You can enjoy it, though. Sometimes people think, oh, I can't do this. But it's nice sometimes to play a different character,
That's right.
you not to be you. you know,
That's right.
it's quite interesting.
Absolutely.
The Roman
Yes.
Catholic priest, and my father and mother were Catholics, and so am I. But that attitude, and you bring to it your knowledge, because I went to convent with Catholic convent school, and it was wonderful to play that role because it was like reliving the priests I met when I was younger,
Yeah.
and I
That's
copied
good.
some of the memories of that. But
Putting
the
all those external, impulses into your mind, framing, shaping that character. It shows the diversity
So
that you
that's
have.
on DVD actually, and that's
Okay.
another film that I'll bore you and send you a copy of it so you can have a look at it. But
I'll watch it.
at the
Fantastic.
end of the day, it's amazing how things from karate lead you to other things, and that's how the
That's
movie
right.
started. So
Absolutely, absolutely. I believe it's martial arts a gift. Really, it's a tool. It's something that's transformative. It really it changes the dynamic of your whole being.
I agree.
It changes the way you see people, the way you see the world. I can walk, and I'm sure you have the same experience. I can walk into a building full of people or go to an event, and I don't even know the person, but I can immediately see who's a martial artist and who's not.
Well, you
That
pick
is
it up.
just
Probably it's a
pick it up.
spiritual thing almost, isn't it?
I
Really.
know. I just know, as an
Mm,
empath, and I used to have that in the church, and I couldn't understand that
mm.
part because I would go into the church, walk down the aisle to the pew, to the pulpit to start preaching, start the
Mm.
worship service, and at some point I would walk and have all, I would feel all the people's emotions, and I didn't understand it. And then I
No.
went into prayer and I realized it's not me going through all of their emotions. I'm feeling their energy.
Yeah, there is a lot to be said for that. It's
Yeah,
funny, the spiritual energy, and feel that sometimes when I'm training, you go to another dimension almost,
yes,
when you've trained hard, and sometimes when you're doing a form or a kata, you get into it, and there's a different internal feeling. I know some people think that's crazy, but I found it so, and there is that. I mean, to do the head break, the block, the
yes,
concrete block and whatever, and some of the clips you showed, was you had to be in a state of mind in order to be able to do that. You can't just go there and
right.
plonk your head on it. You had to build something up from inside for the power to come outside. Really.
That's true. That's true. And it's very powerful. I mean, I looked at that video and I wondered how long did you train for that? Because
Well,
I
that,
realized, that must have taken a lot of
yeah,
training and
I think my brother and myself, Tyron, which where we got the tiger from. His name was Tyron, I was Gary, and so we
discipline.
emerged that together because, we, you know, it just worked that way, and we thought it is our kind of karate. It's what we're
Right.
doing. It's similar to others, but it was different, and we wanted to label it. And then 50 years later, it's still going strong now with clubs all over the world. And I thought to myself, it's amazing what two brothers can start and do. And my brother still trains; he's into Muay Thai and other things,
Okay.
but I kept the whole organization going, and now it is what it is, and I'm proud to share that story with you and the viewers watching.
Yes, please share your stories. We would love to hear from your knowledge and experience. So this is your platform.
Yeah, I think the other thing I like to share with the audience and the people watching is the sense of inner power. You can have a great kick, you can have a great fight, you can have a great this, but it's the inner power. Sometimes I've advised people now who've gone through health issues as well, you
Yeah.
know, to stay positive and what have you. So I think there's a link between what seems to be an aggressive way
Yes.
into a quite healing kind of way, it's almost a spiritual way. I'm a great believer in God and in positive thoughts. And I believe the more you think positively, the better you'll be in life,
That,
even when it's difficult. Because I think it's important in those times not to lose track of one's inner self and keep believing in all those positive things in order to fight the negative things. I mean, when COVID happened, everybody was scared about connecting, and rightly so. But here's a story that you'll like. We were training outside in a park with a group of the Tiger black belts, and we were, an open area, and suddenly I saw three or four policemen, two women and two men, approaching us, and I thought to myself, well, are we in trouble here? So I said, kept going. So as they approached me, I said, we're just teaching self-defense, and I threw a couple of kicks. And I was expecting them to say, well, you can't do this. This is, you're getting a bit close. And they said, I said, anyway, what do you think? They said, we're just fascinated. We love it. We think it's great. Can we stay and watch? And everybody was then saying to me, the other downgrades I taught, they said, we were expecting us to be reprimanded and saying, you shouldn't be doing this. You
right.
were close, but, technically we were breaking rules, but they weren't interested in that. They were fascinated about my kicking and what we were doing. And they wanted
That's
to
doing
join
that
in.
well.
It's a true story. And
Yeah.
so it just goes to show that when you see something that captures your imagination, even in COVID times,
Yeah.
they didn't care. They wanted to see what we were doing and let us continue.
There's
True.
the joy. There's that energy right there because martial arts inspire. It
Absolutely.
inspires people, and there's nothing you're talking about. People that really want to invest their attention into it. I thought, when I taught the teenagers and the youngsters, one
Sure.
of my greatest joys was when the youngsters started
They're
doing the,
funny, aren't they?
they're going through the motions, but then one day that penny drops and you see they feel that movement. Everything is the way
Yeah.
it's supposed to
No,
be, and that look on their faces when they discover.
yeah. I love them when I teach them at the
I love
school, and they just so into it, and it's so wonderful. And I'm sure the parents at first didn't realize, and they think, well, it's all about punching and kicking. No, it isn't actually. It's about building something inner power inside, and they love it. And they don't hurt each other, but they're just full of energy and
That's right. They're full of
spirit.
energy, and I just want to keep on going. And
Mm.
who I also have on here today, who's someone that is like us. He never gives up, and that's Don, because he has had a total of 255 surgeries, and
My word,
martial arts kept him alive.
really.
He describes himself as a one-legged photographer across four genres. I describe him as a legend because that is a sign and a
I think so.
lifetime of not giving up.
Yeah. But
Wow.
you see, these are the stories of inner power. You can be a weightlifter, you can be a karate man, but and in Tiger, I'm a great believer in this. It's what it does inside you, is what it
Yes,
brings you inside spiritually and also emotionally as well. The ability to be able to transmit the energy from within you is the defense, in my
that's
opinion. It
right.
is. But also, it's a caring thing and a very therapeutic thing. Sometimes you can bring yourself down and bring yourself out of the negativity or what's going on around you by doing a form or a kata, or
That's right.
taking your energy out in shadow sparring and kicking like mad, and smashing kicks about there, not at anybody, but just to release the energy. So I personally believe that the physical and the spiritual and the mental all come together. And that's why I think people like martial arts, because it gives a release to the energy, but also gives them tranquility at the end. They've got rid of their anger, they got rid
That's
of their
right.
aggression.
That is true. That is true, sir. Absolutely 100%. I want to say to the audience, like Grandmaster has explained, going into the dojo, kicking and punching and doing those kata. I'm going to give you guys a paradox. All those things, it grounds you.
Correct.
It brings you into another headspace. I would go to the dojo and my Kyoshi would give me one look because he knew I've always had a very busy lifestyle. And he would say, Juanita, leave it at the door. This is your time in the dojo now.
There you go.
And then after my training, none of the things I was carrying with me to
Exactly.
the dojo mattered anymore. Everything was sorted out and it was
Therapeutic, isn't it? Absolutely
yes,
therapy. It works every time. And I think that's the other hidden side of martial arts that people don't know. It's not all about just fighting, but there
yes,
is a calming effect. There's
that's
a calming and the on and off switch. I've always said it to my students and people I've taught. You've got the good side where you're calm and collected, but then you can switch on when your life's threatened or you're under attack. And then it works both ways.
that's right. Absolutely. Barbara says martial arts has kept her
Mm,
going when
mm.
she wanted to give up.
Well, it happens, doesn't it? But when you explain to people, the penny drops then, and they think, well, hold on a minute. You're going to give up doing something that's going to make you feel good and keep you safe? Reasons not to give up, really.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. It gives us reasons because it expands our mind. It makes us think a different way. It really it changed me. It changed the structure, I
By
believe.
the sound of it, yes, I think it did. And I mean, to me, was seeing the movie and looking at the star doing what he's done, I thought, wow, that's great. Then I'll be able to go to school and defend myself when they were calling me funny names because I had a long Polish name. So
Right.
it it opened a total different dimension that is now projected me to be who I am. So I just very lucky, really, that I
You
saw
are.
the movie.
You
And
are. That which was intended for evil turned into good. It didn't hinder you, it
no,
propelled you into the future. And
absolutely.
Don wants to know about your world record certification because he has an appointment and he wanted to hear about that before he had to leave.
So what was it again you said about the certification?
Your world record
Oh
certification.
yes, yeah, here they are actually. Here's one here, which was people can see it, hopefully, there. That's a world record, and that was Special Recognition Lifetime Achievement Award. And then I had another one, which is over.
That
Where
is so awesome. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
there's quite a few here. Let me see if I
No, I
can.
have a few. I wanted to say there's not
Ah,
only
right.
one, guys, there's a few there.
Yeah, here's one
Look
as
at that.
well. This is World Record Certificate, Grandmaster Gary Wasniewski for sparring with 5 people simultaneously
I saw
and
that.
putting his head through a block there. And that's a world record again from all over the world. It's the official record breakers. Funny enough, it's funny enough. The movie I'm doing called The Karate Breaker. But that,
Yes.
yeah,
I'm so
very good.
happy to be a part of that with Chris. Chris is on here as well. Karate Breaker is going to be phenomenal. But, sir, I looked at that video where you sparred with 5 individuals, and that was, I mean, well deserved. Your world
There's
record
no rehearsal there. It was just as it was.
was free. Yeah, it was
There
like,
was there was
wow.
thousands of people. It was at Senai in Birmingham, which is a major
Yeah.
event in the calendar in the 90s, middle 90s, and that's was a phenomenal thing. I was the
Yes.
whole centre of attraction there, and nothing to rehearse. It is, you can see, I'm stepping over and jumping over people
I
trying.
saw you, and you did it. You slid the one's foot, and you did a break fall. I saw that, and it made me think the way that you were defending,
Yeah,
the four corners made me think of Taekwondo.
I
And
look like a bit of a bully, though, don't I? Beating up these 5 guys who
I
are
was
all
like,
senior black belts. I mean,
that
nobody
was
was
well
hurt. But
deserved.
that's the other thing I like about it. The ability is to control the kick just enough
That's
to
right.
knock them off balance, just enough to do that, and without damaging. And nobody was hurt. But they certainly weren't acting. They weren't being knocked to the floor.
They
And
were definitely, and I think that's a good. Maybe that's something that we can bring into the dojos. You know, every now and again, do something like that.
I think it's important to do a
Yeah.
group attack because
Yes,
you can teach, and I teach this, and I think this is another unique side. I'm not boasting you at it, I'm saying the truth
that's right.
about what Tiger is. We teach you moves that would happen on the street, where a gang of
Yes.
people, a knife attack, a this, a gun attack, all these things, you know, you know, any bit of knowledge that can help you stay safe has got to be a
Survival.
good thing.
That's right. That's right. Mark Cox, my one friend in California, he's also been a member for a long time. He's also an inductee, fellow inductee of yours. He has a kill room at his
Really?
dojo, and he takes his black belts. I think it's a whole weekend that they go through all the training
Yeah,
that they've received to get, and there's a big ceremony. The families are invited, but a
of
part
course.
of that event is to go through the kill room and to practice their self defense tactics that they've learned. So people jump
Personally,
out, out of wherever, and they have to be prepared.
yeah, realism is very important. You have to train hard and to be tested. And,
That's right.
it's no point giving a certificate to someone, man or woman, if they haven't really achieved it. And one things I hate so much is when people give grades to people who haven't trained, and yet they're just
Yeah.
giving grades away. It kind of
Self
devalues all the
factories.
martial art. As you can see from me and our organization, yours and other people's, you
Yeah.
know, you want to be genuine. You don't want to
Yes,
be a fake
authentic.
martial art instructor.
That's right. And there's so many of that, sir. There's so many, and we call them belt factories as well.
Yeah, I know. And it's
There's a
about money.
lot of them.
It's all about money.
It's all about the money. It's all
Yeah,
about, it's
yeah,
a
you do.
business for
You
them.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and it's breaking really all the traditions that karate should stand by. Really, you're selling yourself, and you're teaching people are teaching things that don't work and are basically garbage, really, and people
Yeah.
get hurt.
That's right. And I
They
see
get
I
hurt.
see these videos on some of them on the Facebook. People that say they
Please,
do martial arts, but oh my goodness.
it's a joke, isn't it? It's an absolute joke.
I've
It's a
got to
bad joke.
chuckle because it
But,
won't.
but there's always a section of the population that will believe that's real. This
I
is what I
know.
don't get.
That's the
Can't you
weird
see it's
part.
fake? It doesn't work. Unbelievable. But anyway, I suppose live and let live is the expression. But one thing's for
It's a
sure,
way of
you won't
peace.
live very long if you use the techniques that they teach you because it doesn't work.
Exactly. So make sure, guys, when you go look for an organization such as the Tiger, I can really recommend the Tiger organization because I know Grandmaster Wasniewski and I know what he's capable of. I know his team, Chris and Kyle, they awesome. We do the Tigers Den together. Everybody has their role in the Tigers Den, which is launching
Yeah.
soon. So
We're a
make sure you
family.
watch this space. We're a family.
Correct.
But be sure when you look for an organization, when you look for a dojo, because it's never too late to start training, be
That's
sure
true.
that it's the real thing. Look, have an interview with the Kyoshi, with the Sifu, whichever style you choose, might be Kung Fu,
Absolutely.
maybe it's Shorin-Ryu or Shotokan. I want to ask you, sir, because
Hmm.
you've been in the martial arts for many, many years, and sometimes we face opposition. Um, sometimes
Political?
sometimes there's
Political?
political things out there,
Yeah.
and not everybody always likes you. How would you deal with something like that?
I think, to be honest with you, there's always going to be people who like you and dislike you.
Yes,
There's always
that's
going to be
life.
people who are jealous sometimes of the success that you have
Yeah.
and will turn that against you and trying to throw dirt at you or whatever. But in my experience, and I had that early days when I was starting in karate, who is he? He's a young guy, he can kick, but, he can't. I mean, ultimately, the best way really is one, stay positive, two,
Amen.
keep training, and three, most importantly, never let negativity enter your soul. Always know that there are going to be people who like you and dislike you, regardless what profession you're in, what you do,
That's true.
and learn to be mentally tough. But more importantly, the best way to get back at people like that is your success. Keep doing
Yes,
what you're doing, keep training, keep getting the grades, keep getting the awards, and you'll soon silence the big mouths, basically.
that's right. That's right. I read a quote the other day from Walt Whitman, and it said, "Keep your face to the sunlight, and the shadows will fall behind you."
It's very wise, very poetic, even. And I think it's true because there's a tendency, if you're not careful, to allow that to implode in you and
Yes,
destroy your positivity. And also, as well, then it is in the brain and it affects you. And then you doubt yourself. And the thing, my view and my advice to anybody is to stay positive, but never fail to believe in yourself
yes.
and God. Two
Amen.
things: believe in both things, be positive, and above all else, if somebody doesn't like you, say, well, it's okay. I understand you don't like me, but I don't really care because as long as I'm happy and God's happy, that's all that matters.
I agree. I have to agree with that because you can never please everybody all the time.
No.
And Jesus teaches us to be true to Him. God teaches us to be true to Him and true to ourselves,
Mm.
and we should love our brethren. So if
I
things like
don't
that,
normally talk, about religious issues, but I think it's important to do that because I think from sometimes people are scared to say they believe in God, or
yes,
they think, oh, it's not politically correct to say that. Why? It's my
exactly.
feelings. You're talking about karate, but I also believe in God. So
Amen.
where's the confliction? Where is the problem with that? I
No
think
problem.
they have the problem, perhaps, not I.
Exactly, exactly. You either stand for something or you fall for anything. And I explained in the church years, 15 years, I said, I experience God in the church when we worship. I experience the Holy Spirit. I
Good for you.
feel Him moving. But when I'm on the mat at the dojo, I experience God too because
And
God
I think
created energy.
And I think most people do in America, in Europe,
Yes,
and everything. I just don't like it when sometimes people mock that fact
that's
because
right.
nobody's forcing you to believe as we or the rest of the world does. But
Yeah.
don't knock it. Don't knock it. Live and let live. Yeah.
Exactly. Respect others' opinions, respect their
I
view.
don't mind what religion you are. I just respect people for what they are. And I
That's
think
right.
that if the world was more like that, then there wouldn't be all this anger and hate and all this. Just say, okay, it's not my view, but I respect the fact that you have that view.
That's right. So respect, dignity. I mean, I teach the youngsters, and I think it's good to teach them while they're young, when they're youth, and also in the
Absolutely.
church and in the church. You have to treat everybody with dignity and respect. So that means if you are rubbing shoulders with very important people out there, you treat them with dignity and respect. But guess what? When you go to the mall and there's a lady or a gentleman cleaning that floor of the mall that you like to go to, you treat that lady and that man with just as much as respect as all the other people because they are God's children.
Yeah, this is one of the things, isn't it, in society? And there seems to be, I don't know whether it's because of the effects of COVID or what have you, people are very, there's some good people, but some people just don't just see themselves as being the be all and end all of
Yes,
existence. To me, the greatest gift I've done in Tiger is to share it with people, is to
yes,
give them this power that they feel. And I mean, I've got people who've trained with me for 40 years and they're still training 30 years, 35 years. So we must be doing something right for people
that's
to
right.
continue and for the organization to keep going. Obviously, it sends a message that I would never have dreamt it would be this long. But the 50th year is this year. 2025 started in
Special, yeah.
1975, and I think to myself, wow, that's amazing, and it deserves to be celebrated a little bit, really.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you have Ma'am and Meticulous Moments full support, sir. It is such an honor to be
Thank
on the Tiger team. And we cheer you on because 50 years is a long time to persevere, to build. Imagine, audience, how many people have been built up by this organization and they go into society and they take those building blocks and they
Yeah,
take it to
exactly.
their
Even
home
if they stop their
workplaces.
training, they still
Yeah,
have had that taste of it, and it's
that's
given
right.
them something positive and something good, and that pleases me anyway. And I think because you've given them something that's changed their life, and
That's
what
right.
price that? What price that?
Exactly, exactly. And we would love to hear one of your favorite stories in the martial arts because I know you've gone through a lot of things.
I got quite a few. I could bore you all to tears, perhaps. I think one of my favorite stories, I think, of the martial arts is when I was working on the club door in a discotheque, outside. I gave you an example of one case, but then this big rugby, sort of massive American, not he wasn't American, but big rugby player,
Yeah.
and he went like this. What do you think of this? And he's showing me his biceps, and he said, "I could crush you like a shell." I said, "No, no." But I said, "I'm very impressed." I said, "How was it again?" So he went like this, and I just below his belt just flicked my hand, and he went like that, and I said, "He said, man, you're dangerous." I said, well, I think you've shown off enough. I think you better go and play elsewhere.
There's this misconception in the world
Getting
that
cocky,
you,
and then
yeah,
suddenly just a flick
just
down
a
below,
flick, just one
and
pressure point.
he said, "You hurt me." I said, I could hurt you more. Please go away and leave me alone. True story. It's comical, isn't it? But it's true.
That's true. It's really true. There's this misconception,
I can
guys.
trust you.
Yeah, they think
No,
it's
you
absolute
can't.
biceps, they're strong, but no, that doesn't mean they're strong or that they can
You
defend
get it. I
themselves.
mean, I'm 6 foot anyway, but there's some guys that are massively big and broad, and a lot of people are into weights now, aren't you? You see
Right?
them in the gym and everything. And this was in the discotheque, but another guy came up to me in the gym in the 80s or whatever, 90s. He said, "That's great what you're doing." He said, "Well, what do you think about that?" I said, "Very good. I'm very." He said, "Yeah, but I could, anyway." They get a bit carried away. So I did the same thing. I pinched him, and he. You're dangerous, man. Amazing what a pinch can do.
One pinch, one pressure point. I know that
Could have done a lot worse, but
yeah,
you,
you are good at kicking, sir. I mean,
yeah,
you
yeah.
hold world records. I mean,
Well,
you're kind of a legendary kicker.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
which pressure point? How do you train? Because I know there's one on the side.
Yeah, you can. But I mean, if I get up here, I don't know if you can see.
Uh-huh.
The camera will see. But I mean, if you use say a kick, so I'll do a private demonstration.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just kicking without warming
Right.
up.
Flick.
Yeah.
Right.
And being able to use the ability to kick from a chair almost,
That's right.
and it's reasonably high. But in a street situation, you kick low to the
Yes,
knees.
my Gary.
Groin.
That's right. My Gary, King Gary, they were
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. And there's a lot of
Now,
learning.
people are going to laugh at this because they're going to probably say, "This guy, he doesn't talk about it, but he gets some of the." I'm like that all the time. I get carried away sometimes talking to my wife or talking, and I feel like doing a kick. And she says, "Please, will you stop doing that? It's scary."
Well, I'm so happy to hear that she was also able to enjoy the martial arts journey with you. That
Yes.
is so important. Tell us more
I
about
think
that.
it's good to have a good wife or a good partner to see you through it, really, and help you along the way. Even though occasionally, of course, you hear "you're not spending enough time with me,"
Yes.
and but
In the dojo too much.
but there you go. It's a common marriage kind of statement, isn't it? Really.
That's how it goes. That's how it goes. But that's normal to everybody. You know, that happens. I think it's because
I had to do it, didn't I? You see, I had to get up from the chair and do this. And she
exactly.
will say, "This is typical of you. You just can't stop kicking."
But that's not a bad thing because you are a world level, I mean, high level, world level kicker. So that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing because you're teaching
I
others.
just like kicking.
You like kicking and you taught them what type of kick to do on the street.
Exactly. You
Some
don't
people
kick
don't
high
know.
on the street. You
No,
kick low. But if you
low.
want to attract people's attention anywhere, just do that high kick, and they'll say, "Wow, how do you do that?"
And there's the entry to get them into the martial arts, guys.
Yeah,
That's what you have
exactly.
to tell them how
When
impactful.
they know my age, they say, "How can you even walk at that age at your age?" But anyway, another story.
That's another story. That is another story. I've got Don here, and he's asking, and I'm not sure who this fighter is. So let's see if we see
Who have
this
you
one
got there?
here. Samart Payakaroon. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Is considered one of the greatest in Muay Thai. Do you agree? So Samart Payakaroon.
I,
Maybe I
I
never
think
heard
I've heard the name, but I can't
of
really
him.
give a judgment because I don't know. I'm sure he's very good. I'm sure he's
I'm
very good.
sure. Yeah, I mean, Don does know a lot of people out
Sure.
there. He's been
No,
doing
I
it
mean,
for 4 decades, so
no, their low kicks are lethal in Muay Thai. They really
yeah.
are lethal. The
Oh my
the one
goodness.
thing I developed to defend
Oh,
against Muay Thai fighters was to trap with the foot. So basically, yeah. So if they're coming in with a low kick,
Yeah.
they're coming in to kick here or
Right.
here, just to trap it, to
Ah.
use the side kick as a defensive weapon,
Right.
and to time it so you hit the knee when they're attempting to throw it. And
Right.
no matter who you are, the knee's a horrible thing to get hit.
Oh, especially if it bends backwards.
Can you see? Yeah. So,
That's a good
they're
defense.
great at what they do, but that's one thing I picked up because when
Right.
we started out, we used to go to different clubs, and I found the way to around it was to footwork and trap
Trapping
the
that
kick
knee.
coming in at you,
Yeah.
and then flick it up. So I would do this if I show you. You trap it,
Right.
and
Yeah.
then go for a head kick.
Oh,
Trap,
light switch.
head kick, trap, and head kick.
Right. That's a very good
And they
defensive.
drop their guard when they kick, you see. So
Yeah.
if you trap it,
Arms are down.
you can knock them out if you do it right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why, audience, you see the instructionals here, you see the knowledge that's being shared. These are tips that the audience take away, and they
Well, I hope so. It worked for me, so it can work for them.
and that's why Grandmaster Gary and I decided we're going to collaborate on projects. We are going to do projects together,
Yeah.
and we are going to launch those very soon. I'm already busy.
A life story you were going to do about me. Remember
Yes.
we were going to collaborate?
Absolutely. The story, everything. Would you like to tell the audience more? What is the idea?
Well, the idea came about, didn't it? We chatted as such, but there's so many different episodes in my life where martial arts, belief, having abuse at school because of the foreign name, working on a discotheque door when they picked you not for being big, but they picked you, could you fight?
That's right.
Could you fight? And all the other stories, and giving up a law degree, which I did, I studied, and my mother going crazy and said, what are you doing? You're doing this karate. It's all you think about. And but then I look back and think, having a law degree would have been wonderful.
Yeah.
But I feel better the way I am with what I'm able to do now.
Amen.
It's far more enriching and maybe a bit helpful for the rest of society to teach them what I know works. I don't teach anything that doesn't.
That's right.
So, anyway.
Teach what works. You teach what works. And that's why you mentioned something earlier. You mentioned that there have been people, and there are people that have walked for many years with you. How does that happen? It happens when they are edified in their fighting, when they are mentored, when they feel that family connection, and when they feel empowered.
I agree.
Nobody likes to feel weak. They want to be empowered.
Yeah, they do. And I've got guys who trained me 40 years, 35 years consistently. And I think that says much about what we have done in Tiger, really, the Tiger system.
Yes.
Because why would they stay that long? And whenever anybody would say maybe, oh, this system's better than that, I just say one thing. All I know is 50 years later, we're still going strong. 50 years later, we've still got people who've trained for 40 odd years and more. I mean,
that's right.
I think we might be doing something right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the martial arts family is global, and they really support each other. They really support each other. I have to say, I have brothers and sisters in the martial arts that are closer than blood family.
And I think you're right, you know. Yeah. I think so. I know this to be so. And many people, very few, but many people speak like you and I about this. You develop, it becomes a family within a family, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, it's, you know, sometimes you don't talk to your aunt or your uncle or your cousin or whatever, but these people are truly family. We always think of Tiger as being a family, and I think that is a deep bond, you know, that you have. And it's hard to explain how that happens, but it does happen. And in Tiger, we know it to be so.
Absolutely. I believe that wholeheartedly. I've experienced that. I still do. And I really think the blood, the sweat, and the tears, because, let me tell the
Oh,
audience,
there is. There's all of that.
it brings us together. We go to tournaments and we go on that mat and we do that kata, and that kata lasts, what, 2 minutes? Guys, it took a whole year of
Yeah, that's
bloodshed
what people
and
don't see
pain.
sometimes.
What?
People who are
Yeah.
not educated in the martial arts really can sometimes be quite cruel and sort of
Yeah.
critical and say, "Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, I've got a gun. I'm going to shoot you." Yeah, and I always say this: Yeah, sure, you got a gun, you shoot me, but what happens when your bullets run out?
Exactly.
I got something to deal with it. What have you got? And I
Then
think
they're in trouble.
there you go. So, at the end of the day, if somebody wants to be smart, I always like to think the truth is even smarter, because
That's
there's
true.
times where the knife was not going to work. And when
Yeah,
he does run out of bullets, then I'm ready to go.
we've got these. These
Exactly.
are our weapons and our feet, of
We
course.
carry it with us wherever we go.
That's true. We don't need a license for
As
that.
you can see from the kicks, it's there when I need it.
That's right. It's there when you need it, and you can choose which one you
I
want to
don't,
use.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm probably out of range of what have you, but I just had to do it. To me, kicking is a habit.
That's good.
Instead
That's
of
why you're
kicking
so
the
good at
habit,
it, sir. That is why you're so good at it. And, you have really set the bar high for people following in your footsteps, and that's a good thing
oh well.
because it lets them uh, really work hard to achieve, and to become better, and to shape themselves, to mold themselves. I have Barbara on here, my sister. She asks, what have you found to be your biggest way to de-escalate situations when engaged by someone with bad intentions?
I think the best thing to do is say, I hear what you're saying, but
Yeah,
can you just relax a little bit
yeah,
and talk to me as if I'm a human being? In other words, basically, you just say to people when they're having a go at you or escalating violence or what have you, say, you know, that's not really you talking. I always turn the tables back and say, you
definitely.
don't really mean that, do you? Because what you're
Yeah,
saying is really quite ugly. And I don't think you're that kind of person. I find that by lowering instead of reacting
yes,
against it, that
bonding.
antagonizes more anger and aggression. I think if you
Right.
say, don't talk to me this way, I know you don't really mean what you're saying, but it's hurtful when you say that. And I think I've learnt, because I studied law, and I learnt that
Yeah.
and in acting too, how you word your conversation can
Uh-huh.
escalate something or bring it to nothing.
That's
And I
right.
think
That's
sometimes just
right.
saying that, exactly, say, you don't really want to say that. You don't really mean that. And
Yeah,
if you do, that's not the person I knew. Or words to that effect. If it's a stranger, it's different. Then you react and say, and sometimes I do. I remember bumping into somebody and him saying, "Oh, why don't you look where you're going?" I said, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. I didn't." He did bump into me deliberately, but it
yeah.
was a pretext to kind of have a go at me. This was in
Yes.
a street. I was a bit drunk. He had too
Yeah.
much to drink,
Yeah.
and and then he looked at me. He said, "Yeah, I'm not scared of you." I said, "Good. Then why don't you walk away?" And then he said to me, "I'm not frightened of you." I said, "The very fact you're saying it twice, I know you're frightened of me.
Yeah.
Go
He
and
just
play it
gave
off."
himself away.
These,
Because
these are
most of
life
the time it
stories
starts with
that
words,
happen. These things happen. And sometimes people drink
right?
too much or are high on drugs. I remember one guy was working on the door and he came to, and you could see he'd sniffed a bit or
Yeah,
took a
yeah,
bit,
it's something.
which I'm totally against all that. I
Yeah.
think it's evil. Uh, anyway, and he was saying, "Oh, I want to do this." I said, "You know what you need to do? Take less tablets, stop taking dope, put your
Exactly.
life into." And for that moment, he stopped.
He
And he
did.
looked at me and he said, "What do you mean?" He said, And then he opened up. He said, do you think I'm going crazy? I said, yeah, I think you do. And I think you're harming yourself and
My,
you need to slow down.
yeah.
And he looked at me and he burst into tears and he
Wow.
cried. And sometimes, a word or the
Yes.
wording, how
Yeah.
you say it,
Impactful word.
can really touch him or her, and
Yeah.
it just quietens everything down. I mean, when you've got a raging person who's high on whatever drug he's taking, you can't reason with these people, but you can let him speak out all the bile and then
Yes.
say, you don't really mean that, do you? I don't think you do. And
Mm.
when you then dwell on the positivity that you've withstood his aggression and you're not phased by it, you're not scared by it, and you look at him and say, you don't really mean that. You don't really mean
Yeah.
that. And I've learnt the art of that working on the club door, because
That's
there's
right.
times where you could beat the hell out of somebody, but why? That makes me beneath them. I mean, he's trying to have a go at me, so I'm going to retaliate. If he's attacking
Mm.
me with a knife, as they have done, and
Yeah.
whatever, time with a gun, then you have to defend yourself. But with people who are just talk,
Mm.
you can easily bring them down, because secretly we're all human, aren't we? So
Absolutely.
something clicks and he thinks, no, I'm wrong here. He's right. And it goes away.
That's right. That's right. And I'm thinking of the word connection here.
Mm.
I used to teach that there's a difference between communicating, normal day talk with someone,
Yeah.
effective communicating effectively, actually communicating with someone so that they understand what you're saying. But then
Mm.
there's a third level. Those are different from connecting. And I
Yeah.
think the good thing about the martial arts is it teaches us how to connect with people.
Yeah, I agree. And I
Yeah.
think it's a hidden side of it, really.
Level.
No,
Yeah.
you're right. And I think it's the hidden side of it that I dwelled into. And I'm in the process of writing a book. I've been in the process of writing this book for about 5, 10 years or whatever. But what I do know is that a lot of the stories are all true. There's nothing phony or fake in it. It's experiences I've witnessed and people I've met. And what I found is that in analyzing people and
Yes.
talking to people, is that everybody has their own fear within them,
Mhm.
selves about this, that, or whatever. But you can come to terms with all the addictions and all the problems. I
That's
had
right.
one of my students who had a drink problem, and another one who, was popping pills to go to the discotheque to dance the
Right.
night away. And
Yeah.
ultimately, they
See.
came to me and they said to me, I'm not happy with the way my life's going. I said, well, how about trying this? How about stopping the drink and stopping
Yes.
the tablets and see how you feel then? And they say,
Exactly.
oh, I
Take your
can't
life
do
back.
it. And I said, maybe you should try. What have
Yeah.
you got to lose?
What do you got to lose? You can try. I always had a big blackboard in front of my one church. It was on the
Mm,
corner of a street, and I always write on that blackboard, "Try Jesus. If you don't like him, you can go back to your own,
exactly.
previous life." And most
Yeah.
of the people that did try Jesus and that started following God never
No,
looked
I
back.
agree. I agree. And the belief in God and Jesus is very important, because it gives you something more than just what we're living for, is something beyond, because we're not going to be on this planet forever. And in that
No.
time, we should try and help one another. But most importantly, believe in something bigger than ourselves,
Yes.
really.
Exactly. I can't understand it when people don't believe in a higher power. I don't understand it. How do they think all of this is happening? Who tells what to let the sun rise in the morning? I mean, really, guys. And then they try to use science. And then I try and explain to them if you go to the Bible, you can see God created science too.
Don't get me wrong. I
It's not
mean,
an entity on its
I know,
own.
yeah, I know that there are people who believe, and I know there are people who are not going to believe. But I think, really, you're far better off believing. One, because you get that goodness, the feeling inside that you're believing in good things. And I think people who avoid that, who say, "Oh, I don't believe in the religion of this, that," and I said to one guy, I said, "What do you believe in? The newspaper? What you see on TV? Is that life? I don't think so. I
Most of
don't
the
think
time,
so.
it's not even all true. Or they
It's
don't
fake,
even
isn't
show
it?"
us everything on the TV.
To
They have
use a famous expression from Donald Trump, who is, whether you love him or hate him, seems to be doing a good job wherever. It's fake news. And I think at the end of the day,
what happens.
it is what it is, isn't it? We have choices in life, don't we? We can either go down the road of misery, depression, and non belief, or we can go this road of positivity, belief, and spiritual guidance, really.
Exactly, a fuller life, a more rounded, holistic approach, because you can be a believer or a non believer, but you can never change the fact that you are body, soul, and spirit.
Absolutely.
Is
And of course, with one other aspect as a secret weapon, you've got a good roundhouse kick.
yes,
So,
exactly. That is the
sorry,
secret. That's
I
a
had to
secret.
bring the humor into it. And if in doubt, you've got the kick. So,
You got the kick, right? You got the kick. It's with you all the time. You don't have to remember to take it with you. It's
no,
there.
no, never runs out of bullets either.
Absolutely, absolutely. God is good, and the Bible says He's great and greatly to be praised. And I've always spoken about God on this show. When I
I
left the
can tell that.
ministry,
I can tell you're very spiritually minded. And I think that's all credit to you. I think it's fantastic to
thank
be
you,
so
sir.
open about it. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. You know, as we spoke about COVID,
Yeah,
uh,
we did.
the church is closed, right? I couldn't look after my congregation anymore. And I said to God,
Terrible.
what do I do now? You know, I don't have my pulpit. I can't reach the people. What do I do? And he said, well, you're out of the ministry in your church. You don't have your physical pulpit. He said, but the world is your church now. Let's
Absolutely.
go global.
Go in a field or do globally, as you're saying. Yeah,
Exactly,
100%.
because Jesus wasn't just in the synagogue all the
No,
time. He was
no,
out with the people.
no,
There's
no.
a lesson in that.
Yeah, I think you're so right, and I think Jesus is, to me, always in my family been very important to believe. And my mother, I remember when she was passing away, dying of cancer, and she was saying to me, "Oh, she hung on to the picture of Christ and what have you, and the crucifix. I still have the crucifix in downstairs in our house here, and." And I remember saying, "Oh, and she put on a smile. She was dying, but her belief was fantastic, and it moved me so much that how can I not believe in what she was showing? She was
And,
showing true belief against all odds, against death, so to speak. She knew that there was something better to go to
and
because she had
that's when
died of
I
cancer.
go
You
with
see,
peace.
she was riddled with cancer, and it was
Yeah,
awful.
that's another thing that we have in common, sir, because my mom also passed away from cancer. She had brain cancer.
That's
And
terrible.
yeah, and they only detected it 3 weeks before she was to live.
Yeah.
And
No.
she ended up living 3 months because she wanted to see me. I
Well,
couldn't.
there you go. It is, isn't it? It's the life force that Mum was similar to me. She was on the point of death, but she just hung on and hung on. And then when I left, and my wife was with her in the hospital, she said, I'm in real pain, but I would never show Gary that.
Oh.
And then of course that night she passed away.
And she went to be with the Lord. And I say to people, especially my kids, because my mom was their hero. I always
Mm,
tell them, remember, she's with Jesus now and she has no more pain. There's no more
exactly.
pain and suffering. She's
Yeah, that you miss one person, don't you, your mother? But at the end, you don't want to see her in agony.
no. We
That's not
want the best for
not the way.
yes. Because cancer really eats away at them. You know, I was very shocked when I saw my mom, but I know she's with Jesus. She has no more pain. And this year, and that's another thing that I love about your organization, sirs, you help with cancer
Ah,
organizations as
yeah,
well.
nearly forgot to mention that worldwide cancer
That's
research.
right.
It's not just based in England, and we've given every year. And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see that they make comments and thanking me there under their title, Worldwide Cancer Research. And to me, I'm very proud of that because
Okay.
every event we do, the London Hall of Fame, the London World Championships, and all things related with Tiger martial arts, we give for that. And I was thinking to myself, I'm not being angry about it, but
Yeah,
I wonder why other martial art groups, we're the only people that do that. And I heard
exactly.
that from Worldwide Cancer Research. You do the London Hall of Fame, you do the World Championships, but I
Yeah.
said, do other people do that? They said, no, Gary, you're the only one.
Exactly, and we should start that. Last year, I had $100,000 giveaway at the MAM Hall of Fame for stream time on TV because I work with the company Rage Global Entertainment
Of
in
course,
the
yeah.
UK, and I reached out to the American Cancer Association, and this year there is a special project that we're working on for cancer
Good.
because one of our MAM members, 8-year-old son, he was diagnosed with brain cancer a few weeks ago. So we're praying for him. His name is Nico.
There's no nationality with cancer, it affects all of
Oh,
us.
it affects every family, lots of families,
Mm,
and we're also focusing on the veterans. So we're going to be
yeah,
focusing on cancer and working with veterans. And I agree with you. These organizations, all of us have to have a purpose. We have to focus on something
yeah.
that we can help with. So I'm
And
very
because
happy.
of the economies around the world not being good, these cancer charities are suffering badly.
Exactly.
There's no donations going to them,
No,
and it's quite tragic, really. It really is
it is.
because we know it's a hard time for everybody. We all know.
Yes.
I'm not criticizing anybody, but
No.
at the same time, they can't. Nobody. They're forgotten. Nobody does to them, and they tell me this. For them to put that up on our Facebook page, saying that my page, it
Yes.
told me a lot. I didn't doubt them anyway. They should know
Right.
because there's no donations coming in.
That's right. We have to, guys. If you're out there and you can help in any way,
Hmm.
please make sure you log in. Give your support. Grandmaster Gary does the cancer, the worldwide
Yeah,
cancer.
worldwide cancer
Log
research, and
in,
it's great
help.
because it's worldwide. It's not just for England. It's not just for
Exactly.
Europe. It's for everywhere.
It's everywhere. Look at this man member whose son is sick now. He's in Australia.
Yeah,
Worldwide cancer can help, you know,
absolutely,
and the veterans as well. I mean, we're going to be focusing here at MAM Cancer and helping with
absolutely.
that. And
And the reason I got into this was because of the 90s of the death of my mum through cancer, and
yes,
then
our
my
mom's
father followed afterwards a few
that's
years
right.
later. Both died with it, so I took it personal. I'm like that, something like that. Although I'm not going to just sit here and not try and
To
help
do
people.
something. Right, right. It
We do.
changes us. It
Mm,
changes us and it helps us. And I want to say, for me, for instance, with MAM, working with the cancer this year and with veterans, that is the focus for impact and influence. Sir, with your incredible London Hall of Fame,
mm.
with your incredible
Thank you.
movement with the worldwide cancer, we
Thank
cheer you on, we applaud you. There's so many movements out there.
Thanks, Juanita.
Barbara says, please do. Everyone is fighting battles. Show your support there. My fiance, for instance, he lost two sons. He lost both sons in 2021.
It
One,
affects all ages, all
yeah,
people.
and one to gun violence. And I mean, it comes
Mm.
out of you. You don't know what's going to happen,
No, you don't. And
right?
where they go, we could go. And it's not just for that reason to support it. It's because it's the right thing to do. I know it
Exactly.
sounds corny, but it is the right thing
It's
to
the
do.
right thing to do. So support these movements. Support the cancer movement. Support the veterans. Support, for instance, stoppinggunviolence.com and
Yeah, absolutely.
stoppingfentanyl.com that he
Yeah,
advocates
yeah.
for. Because we have all been personally touched by something,
I
and
agree.
together we can make a difference.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
There is that.
absolutely, absolutely. So, tell us one last story. I'm sure we'll have to have another session because we talk for
Oh dear.
days.
Yeah. I've got so many, but one last story, anything in particular? I lived quite a
Maybe
long life.
your maybe your toughest grading ever. What
I'll
was
tell
your
you.
toughest grading ever,
My,
and what did you learn from it?
I shall tell you. My toughest grading was my first stand grading. And when I went for my grading, I was so nervous and terrified. I was appalling. And I forgot the kata. I didn't forget the kicks. The kicks were good and
Good
everything.
for
But I
them.
forgot the kata and what have you. And it was Japanese instructor. And I failed my black belt. So this is a good
It
story to
happened.
end on. Yeah. So I went home in tears with my brother. He passed. I didn't.
Oh,
And then I said, but it gave me, I said, I'm going to show them. I'm coming back now. And I went, and then I went for a grading with Meiji Suzuki, and I went from, I think I jumped from, I was never a first Dan. I went straight to second Dan. They graded me.
see, when you put your mind to it, good job.
So I was given an honorary first Dan
Wow.
to make it kind of fit the bill, but these were for the governing bodies, and they said to me, Gary, yeah, anyway, and they did. Then they didn't want to give me a first Dan; they wanted to give me a second Dan. They jumped me.
They jumped you because you trained and you deserved it, and you decided that was going to be
What a
something.
weird story, but it's true. So
Yeah.
so just goes to show if you give up, you go nowhere. If you keep fighting, you win.
Exactly. There was a boy in our dojo. My son has long hair, sure, because he likes his long hair. He's a samurai. He loves being a martial artist. But he always used to get teased at the dojo. And I told him, I'm not going to stand up for you, every time. You have to stand up
No,
for yourself.
I
You
agree.
learn to be like, be a
Yeah,
dude. And then this little boy was always the guy that was, what made it worse, the guy that was teasing him was the guy that was always winning, in
I
jiu-jitsu
bet.
fought. So now there's this double thing. It was a mental thing. And I said, you can take this guy. I said, show him what time it is. And I was really talking to him that week. And as
Yeah,
jiu-jitsu
good
day
man.
approaches, I see him like kind of, the spark is there. He's like thinking this thing over. And they got into the ring, and the boy charged at him. They're going to do MMA now, they're going to do jiu-jitsu, and he gripped him in a guillotine. It was 20 seconds and it was over. Joshua gripped him in a guillotine and he
Good
had
for
him,
him.
and he closed him.
Good for
And
him.
he got up, and that boy never ever ever teased him, and he never ever lost a fight to that little boy again, because that switch.
Actions always speak louder than words, don't they?
Exactly. Exactly. And
Anybody
that
can
was my
talk
proudest
coffee.
moment ever. Absolutely. And I know you were so proud when you went back after your first Dan grading that failed. You went back and
Mm.
you excelled at it, and you went to your second belt. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, it is true story, and it's quite strange, really. There's a moment where you think, "Oh, should I give up?" What have you? But it didn't last long, and I went back there and I succeeded. Goes
Thank
to
you,
show,
Lord.
doesn't it? Never give up, never
Never,
give way, and never give in. Keep
never.
fighting.
Absolutely. Keep fighting every day. And you said something very impactful, and I'm gonna mull that over. Believe in God and believe in yourself.
100%,
That's what we need to have.
100%. And I think if you can do that, then you've really found peace of mind and also an inner fighting spirit that's not a fighting spirit, but a therapeutic
Yes.
way of living.
Amen. Amen. Sir, I'll definitely have to have you back for another session, because I
No, it's
know there's many more stories.
great talking. Thanks,
Thank
Juanita.
you, sir. God
God
bless you
bless
always.
you. And all the people watching, all the best. Bye
Thank you, sir. Bye
bye.
bye.
Take care.
Take care, sir. There you have it, guys. Yet another amazing session here at Meticulous Moments. It is such a blessing to be able to speak to legends out there who have really been there. They've done that, and they are people with integrity, and there are people who treat other people with dignity. There are people who uplift society, who uplift the community. Barbara Huddleston says, absolutely healing. Thank you. I agree with you, Barbara. And then I have to mention, I am a part of the Tiger Show with Grandmaster Gary, with Chris and Kyle as well. And that is going to be launched very, very soon. We have recorded a few sessions already, so keep your eye open for that. I really want to encourage the audience to support not only MAM, of course, that's very important. You're part of the MAM family and Meticulous Moments family. Support the Tiger organization, what they're doing with worldwide cancer. Grandmaster Gary lost his mom to cancer, so did I. This year, I'm focusing on cancer. Bringing help to whatever we could, whatever platform on there we can with the cancer movement. Also, veterans. We're going to be focusing on veterans because a lot of the veterans did martial arts before they went into the military. Then they went into the military, and when they came out of the military, they kind of found it difficult to find their place in the world. And martial arts really helped them to settle back in. So we want to focus a lot on veterans this year as well. Also, you guys know, a big shout out to my fiance Kevin Oliver, my sweetie pie. He unfortunately lost his two sons in 2021, Kevin Joe Oliver and Joe Oliver to fentanyl and gun violence, respectively. And that has really been something that he's been fighting for at least stoppingfentanyl.com and stoppinggunviolence.com. I am busy putting together his magazine. There's a lot of stories in there, and he actively works on that every day. So make sure you follow that as well. Let us take each other's hands. Let's be community. And let's support each other's movements. I saw a wonderful post by Jorge Borjas from the World Bushido Federation. I'm so honored to be their international ambassador. And he said, when you support the views and the movements of others, it's not going to take away from anything that you are doing. It's actually quite the opposite. Showing support to others just helps you to shine your light out there. And I know for my readers out there, my business people, my entrepreneurs that I am in the groups with, you know that as we rise, we lift, right? We are servant leaders. As we rise, we lift. So we do not undermine other people. We do not just fight for what we believe in. We help others. We kick ass, guys, because we help others. And that shows our good heart and our good spirit. You have to have a good character. You can have everything in the world out there, everything. But if you don't have a good character or a good heart, and if you walk without God, you got a problem. You got to go, do some introspection there. So, but Thursday nights, I want to invite you. I've got the Meticulous Leadership Group, lots of entrepreneurs in there, legends, and we are coming together to collaborate. We connect, we collaborate, we dream things up, we team up. Very important to do that, to get your network together. I have another guest speaker coming up this Thursday. I'll post about it. But support others, and love your family. Lots of love to my family, Kevin, my sweetheart, and also to our kiddos, Kayla, that's in South Africa. She's my daughter. Joshua's my son, and Kimber, my daughter. She's in Texarkana. We are very, very blessed. Cherish the ones that you love. Cherish the family that God gave you. We've all had losses, but let's cherish the ones that we have. Let's focus on what we can do to be a better family. I always used to say in the ministry, a family that prays together stays together. So make sure that you pray and that you plead the blood of Jesus over your children and your life and your business and everything, really. He gives you that protection. And I didn't do a sermon this year, but we just celebrated Easter, which in biblical terms is actually Passover. And that is Jesus' crucifixion on the Friday and his resurrection on the Sunday. And, he's given us life and life everlasting through the cross, through the work on the cross. Scientifically, go and see what he had to endure, what his physical body looked like after they had been, they were done with him, and realize the resurrection power, because the Bible says the same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in us. So utilize that power, take that power, make it your own. It's available to you. The veil is torn. You have free access to Jesus. You can plead the blood. You can pray. You can walk in the Spirit. You can be powerful, and God can use you as his vessel. He can use you as his mouthpiece. So make him proud. I'm so proud of you and you and you and you, all of you at the MAM group, at the Meticulous Moments group, everyone that helps and supports these movements, everyone that's a part of the Tiger team, everyone that supports the Stopping Fentanyl, Stopping Gun Violence groups as well, the websites. Make sure that you put in your effort and your energy in there. Let's make impact, because when we take hands and we collaborate, we bring impact and influence, and those are the two power words I chose for MAM and Meticulous this year. I'll be back with another amazing session, and I hope that you guys have a wonderful evening. Stay blessed, stay humble, and remember, keep training. Till next time. Bye.